Hey there, welcome to a little discussion about our new favorite book. Well, at least my old favorite book, and maybe one of your new favorites. You know, since you're new using a digital camera, and I can't find any books on basic photography that are very effective, I've wanted to talk to you about the camera functions, the lens apertures, the lens focal length, which is the magnification, shutter speeds, and ISO, or film sensitivity. But, you know, there's no magic, there's no romance, there's nothing about photography in there, it's about the mechanics. So, we got this book, you and I, that I'd love to share, and I'm so glad I shared it with you. And you have it, and I have it. So, let's look at a few photos and see if they don't give me a chance to talk about why they work. And maybe there's something useful there. And a little bit of it can be technical. Okay? And so we'll talk about, I don't know, this is going to be random. We'll see. It's an experiment. And these are my easiest bookmarks. I don't normally have playing cards around, but that's what I found when I was looking for stickies. So the book is marvelous, and it takes you through all kinds of emotional places and historic places, and this is a chance to talk about it from a technical standpoint, maybe why a photo works, and everything from composition to the focal point that the photographer is concentrating on, to what's happening with the subjects. So instead of rambling on forever, I'm going to talk about this photo. One thing I like about this is, you know, there's something going on right here. These photos are all about romance. This one's the biggest because the subject is the smallest. So I like to have a big photo when the people are tiny. And I don't care about a big photo if the people are large. What's also happening here is this photo has shallow depth of field. Along here, this plane that's maybe 15 feet from the photographer, it's sharp. Back there, as it recedes, it's not so sharp. It's not terribly blurry either. But left to our own devices, sometimes we'll take a photo where everything happens to be in sharp focus. And having a shallow depth of field makes the eye concentrate on the sharp objects. It's also composed a little off center, which is not unusual. There's a rule sometimes in composing a photo called the rule of thirds, where you put the most important subject matter not in the center of the photo here, but you divide the photo into 3 bricks, and this guy, he's in the third over here, and he's not in the center, he's down low. I don't know how that works. The rule gets broken as often as it gets followed, but this is the composition that makes you look at the photo. It tells the story with the tree and the bike, and it's like a beautiful creation. The photographer was not thinking about any of that when the photo was taken, but perhaps when it was cropped and it was printed, the photographer thought about it. What the photographer did think about was, I don't want everything sharp. Maybe it was innate in the photographer's methods. I won't talk about the other ones now because there's so many different things here. These I like because they point out that nobody looks at the camera as much as we think. Part of what's exciting about these stories is that we're telling stories, but we're not engaged with the subject. There are some where we are, but in most cases, we're witnessing. This is photojournalism. This is telling a story without creating the story, even though the photographer might have played a role in creating it. Maybe we'll find an example. But what's engaging is these people, and you study for a while, and what's really engaging is those people. There's 2 stories going on. I love that. Here's a photo that has kind of poor technical quality maybe, but these guys are probably standing under a street lamp. The lamp is up here, and this is the building or a train, probably in a train station. None of this stuff behind them matters. And the light is low. I'm sure it's at night. The technical quality is harsh, but that doesn't matter. What's happening is you see the faces, you see the engagement between the 2 of them, and that's when you just shoot and hope it turns out. And by design, taking a picture in low light, the camera aperture is going to be set at a large opening. If this is the camera iris, a small opening creates long depth of field. A wide opening lets in more light, which you need in a night shot, and it allows the background, or makes the background, out of focus. Let's go. Next card is here. This, I want you to look for photos by Elliot Erwitt. Elliot Erwitt is one of my all-time favorites. He photographed his family, and he photographed dogs. They're wonderful. This book's one book's called The Dog Observed. I believe it's by Elliot Erwitt. Anyway, he has some hysterical stuff. This is another photo where what makes this magic is this relationship. This is his wife, by the way. We'll see her again. What makes this magic is the light. This photo is very soft light. It's coming from somewhere, almost from everywhere, but it's relatively soft. It's coming from maybe a skylight or a window up here, okay? You can see shadows, which means the light is not coming from the camera against the folds, or they would be illuminated. Here, it's side light. There's a window or probably a doorway here. So this is the dark, an alley or a hallway. It's inside of a building or a room, and there's a window. So when people talk about using window light, this is what's happening. It's a soft, broad window, but it's over here. It's not in front. So it's casting these beautiful shadows, and this edge is what makes this photo catch your eye. And of course, this shape and that expression. Everything does. But again, I'm talking about technical. It can make you cry, but the point I want to point out is that there's a reason you're arrested by this picture. And that's one reason why. And it's perfect that this is all black. If it wasn't, maybe the photographer made it all black, which would be fine. In fact, maybe the photo ended here, okay? But it has more depth when you see light coming from somewhere. No, forget that last point. It doesn't make any sense. Look down here. This photo is on a walkway or a train station or a sidewalk. It's in Japan. People are moving quickly. And what's happened here is the photographer has chosen a slow shutter speed. The woman is walking. She's moving. The shutter speed, maybe she's not. Maybe she's holding still. But the shutter speed on the camera is far slower than what we would normally use. And as people walk by, everything's blurred. Now she's moving. She's moving because the background is blurred. So she's going at 4 miles per hour. That man's walking at 7 miles per hour. And as he passes her, he is also blurred. But the camera is panning, or it's moving along in the direction of the subject. And she's staying in the same place in the camera frame. This is when you want to use shutter speeds like a 30th of a second or a 15th of a second or an 1/8 of a second. Now those are hard numbers that are, each one is half of the previous one. But you're using a digital camera. Oh my gosh, just do that and see what happens. All that matters is that she's still and that everything else is moving. And who knows how many frames this photographer took. Think about this. The photographer used film. We used digital. The photographer could have come back with a 24 exposure roll of film and had one picture to work. We have digital, so we're going to know right away. A little pointer, technical. You want to zoom in on this result to make sure it's as sharp as you hope it is, because if you don't zoom when you look in the viewfinder, when you chimp, you might think it's sharp and you get back later and it's not when you make a bigger image. So these are about light, soft images. I mean, it all goes together. These are taken by different photographers. Holland, USA, and also USA. As a female, you're in a better position to take these photos because your subject will be comfortable. And the light is soft, the printing quality is low in contrast. There's a blanket or a window or a sheet behind the photographer or above the photographer and the subject that's casting this very, very muted light coming from all places and no places, especially this one. And then this same photo could be made with a higher contrast, where the whites are whiter and the blacks are blacker, but part of what's lovely about it is that it matches the mood and what's going on. And look, little eye. There's an engagement. It's not happening here. Here's an engagement. I love this. This is again Elliot Irwin. Nothing to say about that. I just love that shot. Look at this. And even these. We don't need a face for these hands to... We know the baby's engaged with mom. We don't even need a face for that shot. But it's the engagement in these pictures that's magic to me. So here, there's a window. You don't even notice the kitty right away because the kitty's totally in silhouette. But there's one light source in this room, and it's a dreary room. The paint's peeling. There's a window over here that is making this light glow, and the edge of the butt and her face are all just created by that. Okay, let's go on. And I have to see how long a video I can record without it being too long to send to you, but we'll find that out next. This, again, just look at that. These kids. This is from the Bureau of Mines. Okay, so this is a photo taken in or near a workplace. Maybe it's the kids of miners or something like that. It's not about poverty at the moment. It could be about poverty if they were all crying. You can tell 3 or 4 stories here, but the story that's being told happens there. If this isn't happening, this photo doesn't work with the power to get into this book. Okay, he could be looking at the camera. That's the best thing he could be doing. These guys, look what they're doing. They're bordering the picture, but they make it chaotic because they're looking out of the picture. If they were looking in, it would look like it was arranged. The photographer was saying, everybody look at the little blonde boy in the middle, and they'd all look that way, except him. And we'd have an arranged photo. This has got just a perfect juxtaposition of nothing created, but everything perfect. And this, we won't talk about this one as much, except again, what makes this work is everything, but the light makes it work. This is a sunset, I imagine, or sunrise. I think it's sunset. The long shadows are part of the photo, so it's magic for that reason. And the running children are a little bit blurred. They could be frozen. I think it's kind of fun that they aren't if you look at them closely. And what's happening is right there between these 3. This, I love the composition. He has a diagonal thing. Your eye wants to go into this picture and wants to go in this way. And it could have been printed or cropped in different ways. This is in soft light. This is a gloomy day. He's probably outdoors. And it's the softness of the light that kind of gives it, makes you look everywhere. It could have been the same photo at sunrise, and the sun's coming from here, and there'd be bright light across his face and across his hand, and it would also could be a magical picture. It doesn't have to be in this light, but on a gloomy day, it's a time to take pictures. Let's go down here. We'll see again how much time before I run out of time. The point of this picture is you're not photographing people anymore. You're photographing shapes, okay, and tension. Tension makes a picture interesting. Here it's this kind of tension. It doesn't have to be, but it does. Somebody's hand gripping something, somebody almost falling, those kinds of things. This is about composition. I mean, how do you not see that it's a picture of patterns, okay? The photographer was watching and watching, or maybe not watching. This is from Life magazine. But when you see a pattern in something, you take the photo and later on worry about whether it was fun or not. Speaking of fun, the photographer probably told these people a joke. It's good to have something to say to people that will catch them off guard. And it will create or evoke an expression. So in a portrait session, you could say, when was the last time you laughed so hard you peed? And that you'll get some kind of a response. Shock, embarrassment, humor, confusion. But you just ask the question. You're building a relationship. Here, this is a composition that works because look what the photo is. It is of all this stuff. He's looking up. You don't need these, but they make the photo work. If this is a digital photo, and this is down here, you can stretch it. Anyway, that's just neither here nor there. I like what this says about stuff. Over here, this is a technical problem, this picture. What the photographer wanted, the photographer got, which was a silhouette. The stuff out here is a proper exposure. You see what's going on out here in the light. But the camera, your digital automatic camera, left to its own devices, is going to make this too bright and these guys too bright. You want them black. So this is when it becomes time to say, how do I make the camera show a silhouette with drama? If the photographer hadn't been able to control the picture, all this would have been too dark, and I'm sorry, this would have been washed out because the camera would make a greater exposure. It would make the photo brighter than it needs to be, thinking that you want to see what's happening in the shadows. And so this picture, let's say this was taken in the daylight at 125th of a second, and the camera said the exposure outside here should be f16, but the camera says the exposure in here should be f4 or f2.8. Well, that's a factor of 8 or 16 times more light coming into the lens. The photographer needed to make the camera shoot at f16 and forget about making a change to accommodate these people. So it's either a saved or lost opportunity dependent upon camera control. And then composition, give me a break. The whole circle makes the composition. These guys are they're building a tunnel. They're laying pipe. And without the circle, this picture doesn't make it in the magazine. Okay, I think I'm done. And we'll see how long this video is, and we'll see if it worked.